Hey, welcome back to Record of the Day. This is going to be part 2 with the incredible Gordon Au, all the way from New York City, New York.
You.
Welcome, Gordon. We're listening to Louis Armstrong with Edmund Hall's All-Stars 1947. I almost said 44. And this is at Carnegie Hall. So we're going to put on side 2. It starts with Black and Blue, a classic Louis Armstrong tune.
Yes. It's from the 1929 Hot Chocolates musical review by Fats Waller, Andy Razaf.
I was just listening to your version of this morning, and it has, every recording of this song has just this nice, lethargic feel to it. It's really nice. And no one ever kind of betrays that feel. I think it's really great. I always know what I'm getting with Black and Blue.
Yeah, I don't want to hear an upbeat,
Right.
light-hearted Black and Blue, right? So
You can get away with that, not here. So, I guess I have to ask this. You've done the project, we're listening to him. I did propose a couple other trumpet-centered albums for you. Is Louis Armstrong your favorite trumpet player? I'm sorry to give you the favorites question.
yeah, I don't want to talk about that while we're listening to him. But definitely my favorite traditional jazz trumpet player.
Okay.
But I think, I do have a taste for more modern jazz, like straight ahead jazz and then extremely modern jazz as well. So I think I would choose kind of different trumpeters in different sub-styles of jazz.
It feels like blasphemy to ask you this while Louis is singing, but who are some of those other trumpeters?
So for straight ahead, really the first trumpet player who was playing I really loved was Chet Baker.
Cool.
And it may seem on the surface that he's at quite a far distance from Louis, but really they have the same lyrical qualities they're playing, and of course they're both great vocalists, so it makes sense. In the more modern arena, like I really love Woody Shaw.
I don't know that name.
Who's just amazing, just very interesting intervallic, like pentatonic and like inside-outside harmonically sophisticated playing that is very difficult to do on the trumpet. Just an amazing player. Took me a long time to be able to appreciate his playing though.
Do you do a lot of that more straight ahead, more modern playing, or are you mostly in the older side?
These days, no, but all of my schooling really was modern jazz, because that's kind of the de facto standard, and I do enjoy playing that a lot. When I first came to New York, I did lead a modern jazz sextet, and then also did projects with some great musicians like Melissa Aldana, and we did a great album together. But then after that, I think I got more into the trad and swing scene in New York and nationally, and have done less of the modern jazz.
I like that we both just started instinctively bouncing at that point.
Yeah.
That was great. So what kind of brought you to the swing and jazz side? Or I can't say the swing and jazz, the swing and trad jazz from your modern schooling. Was it a preference, or was it just the work, or?
Yeah, so part of it was basically having that history of listening to a lot of trad jazz when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
And
classic.
Nice. And in addition, I grew up in Sacramento, California, where at one point the largest live music festival in the world was, or so they called it. And that was the Sacramento Jazz Jubilee. And I would attend every year with my family and hear a festival entirely composed of traditional jazz. And they would have hundreds of bands from all over the world, and And then they had a jazz society, of course, that ran that, and they had monthly meetings where anyone could go and sit in this specific room, this Woodshed Room. So as a middle school cornet player, I started going there and learning trad jazz and fumbling my way through a lot of songs with like a room otherwise full of old white-haired gentlemen.
that sounds amazing. That's what a great way to learn.
Yeah, I was in the tradition. Yeah,
I've been. I grew up in Nashville, and I've been a big fan of Victor Wooten, bass player, and what he's done for a long time, and the Wooten brothers. And he always talks about how the best way to get good at playing is to play with the best people. And whether it's putting on records or just sitting down and holding your instrument in a jam session that you're not good enough for, it's just being there and being a part of it. And going to those festivals when you're a middle schooler cornet player must be amazing.
Yeah, it was definitely intimidating at certain points. There was a great trumpet player, Stan Mark, who played with. Did he play with Woody Herman? He primarily played with Maynard Ferguson's bands. But he, at one point, he was leading those sessions at the Woodshed Room, and he was kind of a tough love supervisor in those rooms, where you'd play the song once, and then he'd take the music stand and just twist it around so you couldn't see the music, and then say, "Play it again."
Oh my gosh, that is terrifying.
But a great guy, and he was very supportive.
Yeah. I feel like everybody has kind of one of those tough love horror stories. I was hearing about a drummer in New Orleans who showed up to a gig and brought out brushes, and the band leader came back and took his brushes, threw it into the audience, and gave him his sticks and said, "Never again on my gig."
Okay. Yeah.
I was like, okay. I wish I remembered. It was one of those New Orleans band leaders who's been down there forever. I just can't remember the name right now. Anyway, it was one of those things. It was one of those personalities where you accept what they say and you do what they say because they are one of those people.
And that's how to get the most out of that experience with them.
Right.
Yeah.
But man, it's tough out there.
But to finish answering the question you were asking. Oh no, I forgot about it too.
Nice.
Yeah, so I had that background of trad jazz, and I was at Berklee College of Music for undergrad, and then when I got into the Monk Institute, so the years I did it was in New Orleans, and that really, directly reconnected me to those New Orleans musical roots, and I, got back into trad there. I played in a band called the New Orleans Moonshiners with great banjo and guitar player Chris Edmonds, and sometime after moving to New York, I kind of discovered to my surprise that there was this thriving trad and swing scene here. Yeah. Cool. And that's how I got more into that.
This is Struttin' with Some BBQ, a song that has been recorded so many times that I don't know if you're the same way. For a lot of these tunes, I have kind of an iconic recording in my head, maybe one or two, and this is one that I just don't. There's just so many different ones that I've heard, and they're all kind of similar, but not different, and I always enjoy it. I never know whose it is.
I think that makes sense, yeah. For a lot of these songs on this record, really, I think you could say that maybe with the exception of Tippermouth, in which there are one or two recordings that are just super influential and more so than the others, that the rest are very, very well recorded songs.
That's very
true. The one tune I don't know on here is "You Rascal You," unless I just don't know it by that title.
I'm pretty sure it's "I'll Be Glad When You're Dead, You Rascal You."
You're right. Yeah.
I saw that earlier, and I was like, that's a weird way, because I've seen it listed as "I'll be glad when you're dead,"
Yeah.
and I've seen it as "I'll be glad when you're dead, you wrestle you." But I guess you wrestle you just because I'm guessing they're going to do the call and response with the band.
Yeah, probably.
As they do. I actually don't know "Save It Pretty Mama," the last tune we're going to listen to.
Yeah, that's a lesser known one, but Lewis did record that a few times. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So here's an interesting question that maybe you don't have an answer to. Are these tunes so recorded because they are just those tunes that everybody knows, or are they those tunes that everybody knows because Louis Armstrong played them for 30 years?
I think most of these and their popularity probably predates Armstrong, but he definitely reinforced their popularity. Like they, I'm guessing they chose the repertoire for this recording based on what Edmonds All-Stars and Lewis knew in common, the songs they loved. But a lot of these Lewis did keep and record with his own All-Stars for decades.
Yeah.
I think maybe "I'm Confessin'" is one song that he didn't record widely with the All-Stars, but all the others he were mainstays, and even a lot of these same ones he recorded, just a few months later in that town hall historic concert.
All right. Well, I have two questions for you that are unrelated to that, but we have, as sidetracked as we keep getting, I want to get them out. And the first of which is, what's the other music you're listening to, especially now, outside of Louis Armstrong and trad jazz, and I guess outside of modern jazz because we've talked about it.
Oh, well, now I'm not doing during this pandemic time. I'm not doing as much listening or reading as I would have expected.
Okay.
But if I expand the timeline a little bit, let's see. Some music I've enjoyed recently includes this. Let's see. Are they? I think it's a Swedish band. I could be wrong. Or are they Finnish? Anyway, this kind of jazz and electronica group called Jaga Jazzist.
Can you spell that?
It's a Jaga and then Jazzist with IST at the end of jazz. And it's just an incredible group that is really exactly like what you might expect. But it's great because they use acoustic instruments in this electronica setting, and also all of their songs have really what could be called a jazz composer's sensibility. So it's a lot of like developing motifs, and there are improvised, I think, soloistic bits in the middle. Just very, very interesting, stimulating music.
Okay, Jaga Jazzist.
Yeah, incredible.
All right, I'm gonna go check it out. That sounds really cool, actually. And my last question, and I stole this from a concept Jonathan Stout gave me one time. He mentioned that the Metronome All-Stars 1 O'Clock Jump is his, quote, desert island recording. In that if he was stranded on a desert island, that would be the one recording he could take and be fine with listening to forever. So it doesn't necessarily have to be your favorite song, but the one you won't get tired of the fastest, I guess.
Yeah, that's a great question. Of course, if you don't cheat and choose the complete Lewis on RCA box set or something, then if I were choosing just within Lewis, it would be either the Satch Plays Fats or the related Armstrong Plays W.C. Handy record. One of those with the All-Stars, and both of those are just so good. overall, I'm he's I'm not sure. It's a very difficult question. One of my other finalists though would be Chet Baker's what's called sometimes his comeback album called "She Was Too Good to Me," which I think is the late '70s, where he returned to recording and performing after his teeth had been knocked out and after he had been in and out of jail in Europe.
Oh man!
But an amazing album that has some really lush orchestrations and some amazing drumming. By the way, it features both Tony Williams and Jack DeJohnette.
Oh, nice.
With Chet Baker, and also Paul Desmond. It's an incredible album.
This is great. I'll have to. I'm glad I'm recording this, so I have this all to go back and listen to. There's the "You Rascal You" in the back.
Yeah.
When you lay 6 feet deep, no more fried chicken will you eat. I know that'll break your heart,
I've been finding lately a lot of these kind of recordings, especially of these kind of all-star groups or kind of mishmash groups. I've been listening to a lot of Louis Armstrong and Jack Teagarden do it, especially. I'm a big Teagarden fan. And the lyrics that they all choose to kind of repeat sometimes. And there's some that like Louis sings in like 4 or 5 different songs. There's some that Jack sings all the time. And I like their little like catchphrases. And I think "You Rascal You" is one of those that similarly a lot of people have like their own "You Rascal You" verse.
Yeah.
I wish I'd paid a little more attention to it. One of my favorite Louis Armstrong. Exactly. One of my favorite Louis Armstrong blues choruses is, "I'm gonna grab me a picket off somebody's fence and beat them over their head until they learn some sense." Great.
Yeah, when I was in New Orleans playing with that group, the Moonshiners, for a few songs, we would do a thing where just basically we'd go around the entire band and everyone would have their own chorus that they would sing, whether it's something they made up or something from a record.
Was of "You Rascal You"?
We didn't really do that song, but
okay.
We did that on songs like "Last Night on the Back Porch."
Oh yeah. Yep. So this is our last tune. This is "Save It Pretty Mama." This is the one I don't know on the whole thing. But you said he recorded later with the All-Stars, yeah?
Yeah, he did.
Okay.
I think soon afterwards. I'm not sure if it was the Town Hall concert or another nearby one.
Okay.
But yeah, this is another New Orleans tune, but not as widely played, perhaps.
Yeah. Nice. Do you know when a lot of the Ella record? That's later, isn't it? The recordings that you did with Ella.
Yeah, I think that was kind of after maybe the peak of the All Stars. So I'm guessing that was like 56.
Okay. Yeah.
But I'm not sure.
Oh, I did have one more very specific question for you. And this actually, I wrote this down because it came up listening to the album that you recorded, and on your tribute in the St. Louis Blues. Oh, this is gonna be terrible because I'm gonna have to kind of hum this trombone part over St. Pernoma. But the in the Latin section, the trombone has this very straight.
Yeah.
Whereas the drums are like very swinging down on the toms. And that contrast, I don't know why it works, but it's super cool. And I was wondering if you could just kind of talk about it a little bit, because it really struck me when I listened to it this morning.
Yeah, I do think it's a cool idea, and you find that elsewhere in recorded New Orleans music. Like I'm trying to think. Is it in Dardanella where there's some elements of that, or let's see, what's the other one? Well, I'll have to think on that. But there's a lot of examples of some like combinations of vibes that you would think would not mesh, but then somehow the combination is really interesting.
Cool.
As a more general example, they're recordings by Matty Matlock, like his album called Dixieland USA, where it's like a super swinging rhythm section that's somewhat like this, but then the eighth note, as far as the eighth note string feel of players like Abe Lincoln goes on those recordings, and I forget the cornet player's name, but their eighth note feels are very straight. It's like a big contrast between that and the rhythm section, but it's a really interesting combination.
Nice. Now that we're out of time, I'm thinking of more things to ask you. And since we kind of seemed to pause on all of the endings and the tags of each song, because I think that's definitely a moment where Lewis would really shine. He'd take those cadenzas and take those endings. Yeah. The one in my head that I always I call it the Louis Armstrong ending, the Louis Armstrong ending, is the ba ba da da ba da ba da ba da.
Yeah.
And I don't think we heard a single one of them here, but I feel like
maybe true.
I feel like that was kind of like the bassy three chords, like that was his iconic lick for me.
Yeah.
And I was wondering in kind of our last minutes, now that we finished, if there are any other, like, you can hum them or just kind of mention where we might find them, other like iconic repeated Louis Armstrong licks that we like to be on the lookout for, other than that one ending.
You mean for endings specifically?
Or in the middle, if whatever pops in your head first, you can just throw one out there if there are any.
Yeah, well, there's he certainly has like melodic fragments that pop up again and again. He has this thing that's kind of like ba-da-da-da-da, which is like a chromatic thing with a minor third jump in there, and he returned to that a lot of times in his career. What else would I say?
I'm going to interrupt you really quick. So like when you're playing at Lindy Focus and you're playing this concert, are you trying to put those fragments into your solos or are you not consciously thinking about that?
No, not consciously. I think generally for soloing, all other things being equal, it's a bad idea to try and consciously insert anything unless there's a very good like overriding reason why you should do that. Basically, my philosophy is like you do all this preparation work, all this practice, all this listening, but ultimately it's a lot better generally to be in the moment when you're actually improvising and be able to flow with exactly what's happening at the moment, instead of having like a checklist that you're trying to multitask with.
That I really love that answer. That was great. Thanks. On that, of course, I think that's a great point to wrap up. Thank you so much for joining me. I hadn't even listened to this record yet all the way through, so this was a real treat. I'm gonna have to listen again for all the things we talked about. Too.
That's a great album. Great plan on there.
Thanks for joining me so much. Just really quick, anything else for you on the horizon or anything else we should check out?
Well, let's see. So just tomorrow, Saturday, I'm going to be part of this rent party, which I think
that might be in the past by the time this is out.
Oh, it's true.
So, in a Saturday in the past, there's a rent party that Gordon was a part of.
yes, and hopefully it went very well. There's another event coming up on May 23rd that I'll be a part of. That Nick Williams is running, called the Rhythm Relief.
I'll make sure to get this up before then.
Yes, so look out for that. And then I've been collaborating with some fellow musicians on a few recording projects, as I know you have as well. Yeah. So including some by Michael Gamble, by Keenan McKenzie, and by my brother Justin Au, among others. So,
nice.
Yeah.
Are we going to have a remote Au family band album?
We'll see.
We've got the time.
It's true. There are kinks to work out and learning curves, of course, but it's possible.
And I think we're only going to get better at it as we are forced to do it more.
Yes, it's just another thing to learn.
Gordon, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to see you and chat with you, and hopefully we'll get to see each other in person sometime soon. But in the meantime, I can listen to this album and remember our conversation. Thanks so much.
Well, thank you, and likewise, John. Hopefully the next time we get together and hang in person or make music in person will not be too far away.
Hopefully not. Anyway, thanks so much. See you next time. See you, everybody.